Almonds can kill you. So you probably heard this one before, maybe on YouTube, or you heard it from a friend, or maybe somebody mentioned it in school, or you read it on a blog. But if you ever wanted a definitive answer on whether almonds can actually kill you or not, well, it turns out the answer is yes, they can. But only if you eat a certain amount, and to be more specific, a certain type of almonds. So in today's video, I'm going to try to break it down a little bit. I'm going to talk about the actual poison in question. I'm going to talk about the history of use and everything else that you may find interesting. Now, before we start with this, I'm going to put a giant disclaimer in this video. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a botanist. I'm not academically equipped to provide the exact answers to this. So everything that I know about this topic, I learned through the research. And I'm going to put some really useful, interesting links down below. But if you really want to know everything about this topic, I definitely encourage you, and I definitely encourage you to look it up and actually address this matter with somebody who is competent in this field. Now, if you live in the United States, if you ever get symptoms of poisoning or somebody who you know, I'm going to put the link down below onto the website that you can go, and I'm also going to put a phone number that you can call on the screen right now. If you're not from the United States, please look it up. You definitely have the equivalent in your respective region. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive deeper in the topic and let's see what makes almonds so deadly. Now, almonds are some of the most consumed nuts in the world. Now, according to Statista, in the United States alone, the amount of almonds per capita is almost 2.5 pounds. They're extremely delicious. They're really nutritious. I use almond milk, for example, when I make my shakes, and I use it every single day. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the other side of almonds. See, the culprit behind the deadly side of almonds is something called a compound called prussic acid or hydrocyanic acid. Or to be more specific, it's the product that comes out of it, and that's cyanide. Now, these acids, they occur naturally in a lot of plants around us. Some of them are bamboo shoots, almonds, peaches, soy, spinach, and so on. Now, the amount of this compound in fruits and vegetables that you're going to buy in your local store or marketplace, they're really low, and those fruits and veggies are definitely safe to eat. Some other fruits, on the other hand, for example, bitter almonds, are a totally different story. They are not safe to eat because it really doesn't take much to get to the lethal dose. If we're talking about adults, the number is around a dozen to 70 seeds. And if we are talking about infants or a young child, we're talking about numbers as 5. Now, as you may assume, because of the lethal ability of this compound, it really didn't take humanity long to start using this in the most human way possible, and that is killing other humans. Because, you know, humanity. Now, some of the earliest instances of this use go back to the Roman Empire, and I'm gonna let you guess which empire do you think started using this? It's Nero, of course. I mean, who else? Who else is gonna come up with this? Nero. Now, at the time, it was used as a cherry laurel water, because that's the only way that they know. Now, as we go through the history, later use was in the Franco-Prussian War, when French soldiers were urged to dip their bayonets in cyanide. Now, both world wars saw use of this. In World War I, it was used by both sides. And then in World War II, it was infamously used by Nazis in the Cyclone B agent. Now, in 1995, the Japanese called Aum Shinrikyo, and I do apologize if I butchered this, but they placed cyanide in subway bathrooms. It's probably something that I'm going to do a video on. Two notable instances in the recent history include Jonestown Massacre from 1978 and Tylenol poisoning in 1982. And those two specifically highlighted the lethality of this poison. Now, the most common way of poisoning is actually through inhaling the smoke from a fire. Now, even though humanity discovered the lethal properties of this compound early on, it wasn't until 1782 and the Swedish chemist Carl Wilhelm Scheele who managed to isolate it from a Prussian blue dye. Now, some years later, in 1800 to be specific, the cyanide was isolated from almonds. Now, how does cyanide act when it's in our bodies? Now, soon after exposure, cyanide quickly enters our bloodstream. Now, what's interesting is the body handles small amount of cyanide very differently than it does the large amount. Now, in small doses in our body, cyanide can actually be changed into thiocyanate, which is less harmful, and we can get rid of it through urine. Now, in small amounts, cyanides can actually mix with other compounds and create vitamin B12, which can help us maintain a nervous system and red blood cells. Now, in large quantities, our body is not able to convert cyanide into thiocyanate because it gets overwhelmed. Now, large quantities of cyanide prevent cells from using oxygen, and those cells eventually die. Now, the heart, the respiratory system, and nervous system are the most susceptible to this poison. So at this point, we do understand how lethal cyanide is, and how dangerous it is, and how it should be handled with caution. But are there any positive uses for it? Well, actually, yes. Cyanide is being used in various different fields. It goes from farming and agriculture. It's used in pesticide. It's used in plastic. It's also used in electroplating. Mining has a need for cyanide as well, and wastewater treatment. So in short, this was a really short history of cyanide, and I hope we explained some things about it, how it's used, what should be careful about. If you definitely, again, if you want to know more, there's a lot of websites. I'm putting the links down below that you can look it up. I hope you found this video interesting. I will be making more content, and I would definitely appreciate if you want to like and subscribe. Definitely share your thoughts on this video. If you have any other curious things about this topic that you know, just drop them down in the comments. And hopefully we're gonna start making more content, and looking forward for more things.